Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/campaign to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
Conflicted by her swirling emotions, Feyre uses physical training to cope with the things happening in her life that she cannot understand. Though the tension in the inner circle seems to have been sorted, tensions rise again when Maja the healer cannot find anything wrong with Elain and advises that they allow Lucien to engage with her. When this does not go as planned, Feyre goes to flying sessions, feeling defeated. The following day, Feyre takes Nesta to the library in search of more information about the cauldron, only to be cornered by the ravens of the King of Hybern.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author. This podcast is a discussion shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of the book, series spoilers may be discussed with or without warning. Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, death, and depression, will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels.
This season, we are exploring Sarah J. Maas's most ambitious novel in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. This is Jac.
And I'm Amy. This week, we're discussing chapters 28 through 31 in A Court of Wings and Ruin. This week, we ask ourselves, how has the tearing down of Feyre's pride impacted her relationships with her sisters?
Themes we see are a classic, food is power, as well as family dynamics.
It is the day after the Inner Circle's Court of Nightmares visit at the start of chapter 28. If you don't recall, Feyre had an emotional evening after fighting with Nesta and sensing Elain's fragility. Instead of treating herself with care, Feyre goes to the opposite extreme.
It feels like a jarring morning for several reasons, and I'm going to say that these little moments are adding up to show that Feyre, dare I say, might be experiencing some character development.
Dare I say, I think you expect too much of her.
Dare I say, you might be right. Feyre thinks back on Amren and the Carver, and Amren's claim that the Carver wouldn't bind himself into a body. And Feyre literally emphasizes the word claimed, because she's starting to think outside the box, starting to push herself on what is possible. Additionally, Rhys is gone in the morning, and she is pissed. Are we ever going to get a full, screw you, Rhys, I'm so mad at you, I can't believe you did this, from Feyre? No, we will not. She will not admit it to us, therefore she won't admit it to herself, and we're not going to see that. So this next part is basically her screaming in rage at Rhys. Quote, "He was already gone by the time I awoke. I gritted my teeth as I dressed in my leathers and winnowed to the House of Wind." Feyre is angry and frustrated and probably needed Rhys there in the morning. After such an emotional night, that was completely his fault, by the way. Feyre might need a little support. So of course she changes into her fighting clothes as she deals with this anger and goes to fight it out with Cassian.
It's like she took personally this decision to not fight with each other in front of their peers. Therefore, now she just can't say anything bad. She just internalizes everything.
And it's so hard because you can be on his side and still be mad at him.
Right. It's like the how to lose a guy in 10 days. The I love you, but I don't like you right now.
Yeah. Benny boy, Benny, I love you, but I don't have to like you right now. I love that movie so much.
I have not watched that in years.
We should watch that.
Feyre's first reckless move of the day is her decision to use her wings to glide to the House of Wind after she winnows above the wards. She, quote, manages a decent enough glide into the open-air training ring on its flat top. Cassian was already waiting, hands on his hips, watching as I eased down. Too fast. I slammed into a wall of crimson before I could get a face full of the ruddy rock, but I swore, pride skinned as much as my palms as I staggered back. Cassian's shoulders shook as he reined in a laugh. A couple of thoughts come to mind here. First, as I've said before, Feyre is very powerful and very proud, and her inability to master flying helps keep her a bit more humble than if she could fly instantaneously. I think that's important for her journey towards self-awareness. Additionally, if Feyre's ability to fly is symbolic of her role as High Lady, then what we see here reflects what we saw last night. Feyre did her best to play her role, but she stumbled a bit, and the others are witness to that. Though the focus last night was mostly on Rhys, Feyre is learning from Rhys. They are a team, as she's demonstrating here. So, Rhys's stumble is Feyre's stumble too, especially when she does not call him out for his shit in front of the rest of the inner circle.
And we don't get that behind the scenes moment, because I don't think they ever do.
No, I don't think so.
No resolution. In this episode in particular, we will see Feyre try to fly more and make a little bit more progress, just as she's going to make some positive progress in this episode as well.
I want to go back to what you just said prior to this point, that we never see that resolution. And that's one thing that definitely frustrates me in a lot of romance novels, that it sometimes romanticizes the difficulties in relationships and doesn't show healthy dynamics working towards compromise and resolution, and we're allowed to disagree.
I don't think that we're wrong for thinking that they don't talk about it, because we know for a fact Feyre said, hey, let's just not disagree in front of our friends. If we, we'll put on a face and talk about it later. Well, they were cuddling, right? And just kind of sitting in silence all night. Then he leaves before she wakes up.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that, but we don't.
But we don't. We don't get enough of the hard conversations that happen in relationships within books.
No, and I really would love those, especially for a character like Rhys, where it seems like she forgives him too often for too big of things. And I hope they talk about it and we're just not privy.
Right, because otherwise their relationship is unhealthy.
Yeah. I love how we're just kind of like, no, there's still hope that they're healthy with that whole ass pregnancy thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, spoiler.
Oh, yeah. Silver Flame spoiler.
No one knows what I'm talking about, though.
No, not at all. So going back to what we're seeing in this scene, Feyre has met Cassian for training. Notice that Feyre's pissy with Cassian when he tries to give her advice. I think this reflects the High Lady's journey. Feyre's only really willing to listen to Rhys when it comes to learning about leadership, despite Feyre acknowledging that, quote, I didn't think the others gave him, Cassian, enough credit for noticing the shift in someone's emotional current. To command legions, I supposed, he needed to be able to read that sort of thing, judge when his soldiers or enemies were strong or breaking or broken.
I know we keep saying that Cassian is the emotionally aware king, but I want to explain what SJM just did here. First, we give credit to Cassian's emotional intelligence, that he's aware of others and is considerate. And as a reminder, I'm going to look at this through gender stereotypes as a lens. So just keep that in mind, that this is just a tool, not a belief. But let's say that with the stereotype, women are typically more emotional and emotionally intelligent, that this is a feminine trait. I love that not only did SJM give the biggest himbo and what we would consider to be almost caveman, I am man, hear me roar type character, she made him the most emotionally intelligent character. But the justification and explanation as to why he is the way he is because of his ability to lead an army, a very masculine job, which then kicks this whole masculine equals emotionally stupid concept to the curb and embraces that men can have emotions and recognize them too.
Bravo. Bravo to you. Bravo to SJM. And it reminds me of what we discussed in a mini episode, I think, from Grace, about how for so long SJM has dealt with typical, maybe standard stereotypes in literature. And she's flipping it on its head, which is kind of awesome.
In really subtle ways.
Yep.
Because that's just a one line.
Yep. And you don't really pay attention to it. We kind of take it for granted.
We really take for granted just how aware Cassian is of everyone and how considerate he is. And even in the next chapter or so, we don't really talk about it. Well, I'll mention it here. When Cassian and Azriel show up because Feyre canceled on lessons and Cassian's there yelling at her and Azriel's there with salve. You know, it's moments like those where we kind of laugh him off like, oh, he's like the brute. But no, like he's the more emotionally intelligent one here.
Yeah. Also, he's probably like you and is just mad that Feyre's gotten herself to a point where she can't move and she's in pain.
Maybe he wanted to help her stretch.
Yeah.
Maybe he was like, hey, you went really hard yesterday. Today would be a great day for stretching.
Maybe he's very concerned and that concern comes across as anger.
And you know what would not help entirely? A salve, because you're not stretching.
We've spoken in the past of how Feyre is a physical being. She solved problems with Tamlin with sex. She works through her emotions through physical training. That is obvious again here, and Cassian comments on it. Quote, "It helps me too. The physical activity, the training." This is in response to Feyre saying she wants to train hard enough that she has to limp out of the ring, which she says because, quote, "I peered inside to that place where I now felt like quicksand." Okay, but why quicksand?
I love this because in the prep episode, you asked me that and I just looked at you. I'm like, I don't believe in quicksand.
yeah.
Because
Explain.
Quicksand to me isn't real. And let me explain this a little bit more. So as a kid, I felt like quicksand would be a larger issue in my life.
Because it's in every cartoon ever.
Every cartoon. And I was like, wow, I really gotta look out for that. When you look at quicksand, it's one, not that quick. Two, it's mud.
Mm-hmm.
It's barely even sand. I think quicksand was made up by Big Sand. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't believe in it. So also, does this world have quicksand then?
Obviously it does, if Feyre can think of it.
It's just mud. It's just aggressive mud.
You know what this makes me think is that if quicksand isn't real, and it's something we don't understand and we just use as something to avoid, then does that reflect Feyre's inner thoughts? And what I mean by that is that, oh, it's just an excuse. It's an excuse to not touch the thing that she doesn't want to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this hypothetical thing that, you know, you don't quite see.
Yeah.
Isn't quite quick or sand. Her mind's been infiltrated by Big Sand.
Inception.
Sandception.
We don't get a lot from the scene with Azriel that follows training with Cassian. All the action and dialogue happen indirectly. What I love about this is that it reflects Feyre's removing herself from her desire and tendency to interfere with people's relationships, specifically her desire to talk directly to Azriel and more about theirs.
I love this moment when Feyre says that she, quote, made the mistake of asking if Azriel spoke to Mor, and he was super short with her and quiet, and clearly he didn't want to talk about it. The absolute comparison and juxtaposition to Cassian, who was all, let me connect with you, talk about it, or not, whatever you want, let's train. When I read this part with Azriel, I'm just like, oh, baby boy is broken, because he keeps clenching his hand over and over and just is like, festering in his own angst.
Yeah. It really does speak to how, for lack of a better word, mature Cassian is and how much growing up Azriel still needs to do.
Which is so funny because, again, Cassian has this himbo persona of kind of being an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
If people don't know the term himbo, think Krunk from Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, yeah. It's a male bimbo.
It's a male bimbo. Super nice, easygoing guy. But, you know, we think Cassian's dumb, but he's not.
Nope, he is not.
I don't think he's dumb.
He's not dumb.
I relate to him. I relate to that a lot, though, because I'm super positive, joke around, easygoing. A lot of people think that I'm dumb.
Yep.
Bitch, I got a podcast where we analyze the books. Come at me.
I would never come at you.
No, not you. Never you. You come with me. You hold my hand. We play Red Rover with the bitches coming at us.
Going back to the thought that Feyre really, really wants to get into the nitty-gritty of Azriel and Mor's relationship, She still holds back, and she holds back when she sees Moore later. But that doesn't stop her from being kind of a bitch, because I think some of her pride has come back. Though Feyre got what she wanted from training all day, limping into the townhouse, she also feels the need to put on her High Lady mask when she's in front of Moore. Remember, it's only Cassian and Azriel who she's struggled to fly in front of. She's willing to be their student. But with Moore, it's different. I think Feyre feels the need to at least be Moore's equal. Why is that? Let's look at what happens in this scene. When Feyre enters the townhouse, Moore is eating a pastry. Feyre and Moore greet each other, at which point Feyre takes, quote, the pastry out of Moore's hand and finishes it off. Not one to play the child's game with Feyre and steal back her pastry, maybe because Moore has a little bit of respect for Feyre. Moore opts for summoning a plate of melon from the kitchen instead. Honestly, I'm embarrassed for Feyre at her audacity, and quite frankly, I don't understand it. I wonder how much of this is a reflection of Feyre's attitude toward Ianthe. Remember, in Season 2, we discussed how Tamlin had his inner circle knockoff, with Ianthe and Moore being a similar pair. Because Ianthe always looked down on Feyre, does Feyre feel the need to exert herself so that she's at least equal with the other women in the inner circle, or at least with Moore?
I love this because I interpret it entirely different.
Okay.
So when I read this part, I totally interpreted the hostility from the get-go, but here's how. Moore is at the dinner table, munching on a giant pastry that she grabbed from a bakery on her way in. Quote, "You look like a team of horses trampled you," she said around her food. "Good," I said, taking the pastry out of her hand and finishing off. I'll start broad and then go deeper. First, keep in mind, Feyre hasn't seen Moore since all the shit went down the night before. While they didn't have a fight, keep in mind Feyre and Rhys are a team. Additionally, we know that Moore has already spoken to Rhys. We know that, in air quotes here, she understands the reasons behind it. Air quotes with understand. So, again, but Feyre doesn't know that. When Feyre walks in, the first thing Moore says to her is that Feyre looks like shit.
Mm-hmm.
First off, like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
We had this huge argument last night. I don't know where we stand. Are you mad at me? Are we both mad at Rhys? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And Moore is just like, fuck you. You look like shit. Feyre is being a punching bag right now to Moore because of Moore's annoyance at Rhys, and she's taking it out on Feyre. So, of course, Feyre would take her food since Feyre's trying to regain power. Let me even look into this deeper. When Moore insults Feyre, she says it, quote, around her food, as if she's using food as a shield. The only way she's able to say these words is with power at her mouth, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Moore coming into Feyre's house, unannounced, insults her, but even worse, doesn't bring food for Feyre.
And speaks with her mouth full.
And speaks with her mouth. How dare you? Friends? Bring friends extra snacks. If the friend is coming over with the snack, you ask that friend, do you want a snack? Amy, every time we come over, it's always like, hey, I'm stopping by XYZ. Do you want something? You showed up with Girl Scout cookies that I didn't even ask for.
It's true. I did.
And what does Moore do? She just is like, I'm not going to bring you food. That's an insult.
That is an insult.
And then I'm going to tell you you look like crap. To keep rolling with this food is power train, when Feyre asks about which High Lords responded to the summit invite, Feyre thinks about Eris joining and not wanting to hurt Moore. Quote, "I didn't have the nerve to wonder aloud if Eris would be good to his word and make sure his father attended, joined our cause, not with the light back in her face." Moore picked up another slice of lemon. "Then I'll have to decide if Rhys and I will go drag them by their necks to the meeting." That's what Moore said. Like, come on. Feyre is remarking on Moore's light coming back and then using food as power to then be able to threaten these men who hurt her. So, yeah, I don't think it's, to me, this isn't Feyre's pride. I think it's kind of like, what the hell? Like,
yeah, that's fair. The whole time I was like, yeah, that would be really shitty if you and I had a disagreement and then the next day I'd come in and be like, you smell like shit.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, did they have a disagreement?
Yeah, it's true.
And that's the, like...
Well, apparently we did, because that's your attitude.
Right? And that's the other thing where it was like, I mean, it's awkward because that's Feyre's partner, but it's also Moore's cousin. So they're allowed to fight. But what Rhys did was shitty. So, like, you know, Feyre probably has no idea where she stands with Moore.
Yeah.
And then she walks in and Moore's like, "What's up, bitch? You look ugly." Yeah, I'd be like, okay, it's go time. Let me take your food.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good point. I am more sympathetic to Feyre, given your point of view.
I mean, but I love your interpretation too. It's just, again, the beauty of literature.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it could be both.
It could genuinely be both. Like, I'm not saying that Feyre's this emotionally mature person. She literally takes the food out of Moore's hand, being like, screw you. Let me take your power.
Yeah. It's like stealing candy on the playground, you know? Did you ever do that?
No, because it's gross. Did you?
I don't remember. Probably not.
It's just, I think even as a child, I was like, I don't want your sticky ass candy.
Yeah, I don't want something with your saliva all over it.
Ew.
During Feyre and Moore's discussion, as they discuss the events of the day before, Moore comments that she hates war, and I think we talked about this last week. Quote, not just for the death and awfulness, but because of what it does to us, these decisions. Feyre thinks in response, quote, I nodded, even if I was only starting to understand the choices and the costs. Moore's comment helps bring some awareness to Feyre that Feyre herself has slowly been coming to, that these are choices and costs that do cause divides, and that despite the good intent, the rifts are bound to happen as the group continues to act. This is especially poignant when you think about what happens next in the chapter.
Got a question for you, Amy.
Sure.
We know Moore and Rhys had a conversation off camera, we'll say. And we know that Moore has been through war before, so she understands strategy. My question to you is, though, does this whole 180 where Moore suddenly understands what's going on fit her character? She's coming to a pretty quick understanding, this self-awareness, this wisdom even. Is this believable from what we've seen of Moore? Especially as she admits that she fully expected Azriel to side with her, which is very immature. And we also know that Moore hasn't apologized to him yet. I don't even think she really does. We know that she sits next to him at dinner, not even that night, but I'm pretty sure even like the next night or a couple nights later. But I don't want to undersell her years of experience and say that she's naive. I just don't know if we've seen enough from her to prove that she's mature enough to come to this conclusion.
Sure. You know, at first, my thought about this was that, well, Moore's just being a good soldier because that's what she is. She is a soldier. Mm-hmm. And Rhys is her High Lord. So at the end of the day, she's going to side with him, regardless of what she thinks. But I actually think it's deeper than that. I think that there's something about Moore's trauma and her history that has created a very irrational and a very rational self. And I feel like the first thought that came to mind was, she's a Gemini. But
sorry, Gemini.
Sorry, Gemini.
That didn't.
Sorry. We can cut that.
No, keep it. I want him to know.
But that almost like Nesta in Silver Flames, but in a different way. She wants what she wants. She believes what she believes. And she's capable of separation. Mm-hmm. And that it's not maturity. It's truly this side of her that's experienced trauma and the side of her that's the good soldier constantly at war.
I love this. So basically, Moore is the queen of compartmentalizing.
Yes.
Because we know she likes women. We know that she doesn't feel comfortable sharing that. And we know that she has loved women before in the past. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And never told her friends about it.
Yep.
So she's able to block off these sections of her life of like trauma, romantic, friendship, party, Azriel, Cassian. Like she's able to block all these sides off. So I can totally see what you're saying where she shifted to soldier side.
Right, right. And it's not necessarily a healthy compartmentalization.
No.
It's just her coping skill because she can't resolve all these different parts of her. They can't be in harmony.
And it makes sense because even as she was explaining like her conversation with Rhys, it never felt genuine. It was just reciting. Sometimes it's like when I'm in therapy. Mm-hmm. It's not my fault. I know there's nothing I could have done. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Poor Esther is just like, no, I need you to mean it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that. And it makes, now that you've explained it, I love it. It makes sense. Wow. I think we actually analyzed her character for the first time. We got depth from that.
Not expected.
Didn't even realize it, even as we were saying it.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow, look at that. She's on the track of being a developed character.
She might be a full character.
Whoo!
As Lucien suggested the night before, Maja comes to check on Elain, and to everyone's chagrin, and maybe irritation on Nesta's part, Maja cannot find anything wrong with Elain.
Maybe irritation on Nesta's part? Were you just being facetious?
Maybe a little.
Okay, because did the yelling and screaming.
Irritation, frustration.
Rage,
all those things. I want to examine this moment a little bit. Maja is the ultimate maternal figure, something that is practically non-existent in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. She appears old, which is odd for a fae, at least from Feyre's point of view, with, quote, magic, sweet and cooling, thrumming from the female. Yet when Maja lays her hands on Elain's head, Feyre starts as if to prevent the healer from doing anything. I think this is because Feyre has only ever hated her mother. Though Feyre knows better, Maja, as a maternal figure, feels like a threat and not someone who can actually help Elain with whatever it is that's plaguing her. It probably doesn't help that Maja speaks to Feyre and Nesta as if they're children. Maja warns Feyre to not do anything with Elain, and Maja speaks to Nesta, quote, as if she were a small child in Feyre's observation. At this point, Feyre causes a rift between her and Nesta when Nesta demands that they call another healer. Feyre puts on her High Lady hat and says no, much to Nesta's shock, and instead demands that Lucien try to talk to Elain first. It's like Feyre forgot what she and Mor were just talking about.
Yeah. Although, I mean, it's nice because Nesta did need to shut up and be quiet for a heartbeat. And, like, I'm proud of Feyre just telling Nesta, like, hey, stop it, be quiet. And, good job in that approach. That being said, dear listener, always get a second opinion.
Yeah.
From a doctor. Like, Nesta's also not wrong. I don't like her delivery there because she's getting, all anxious for Elain, but get a second opinion.
Yeah. I had one dentist tell me I had 10 cavities. I went to another dentist and he's like, yeah, they're lying to you. You only have 2.
10?
Mm-hmm.
Good thing you went for that second opinion.
Yep.
Wow.
Always go for the second opinion.
Wow. I feel betrayed. Also, more points to Lucien. When he says that he doesn't need to be monitored, all 3 women, Nesta, Feyre, and Mor, look at him and they just give him a look. And it's described, he puts his hands up, backs away, and he's like, I'm going to go get dressed. And smart man, ideal man.
Knows when to shut up.
And walk away.
Yep. At the start of chapter 29, Maja's gone, and Nesta is training with Amren in the dining room. Lucien and Elain are sitting by the fireplace while Mor and Feyre, quote, sipped chilled mint tea by the bay window, pretending to be watching the summer-kissed street beyond us, the children, high fae and fairy, darting about with kites and streamers and all manner of toys. In this setting, Feyre and Mor are the chaperones who monitor the moves of the couple to make sure nothing improper happens. So, of course, they're sipping tea.
Tea that's chilled because potentially they've been sitting there for a long time. It's telling us how much time has passed without telling us how much time has passed. And I love that as a writing device.
Yeah, it's so clever. For me, at first, I thought it was just like, oh, it's iced tea. But I could totally see it being an indication of time passing, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely was filing that away from my own writing brain of like, ooh, what's a great way of saying time has passed?
Yeah, without saying time has passed.
Yeah.
Show, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
While you loved the tea, Jack, what I loved about this scene is the attention paid to the children on the other side of the fence. Those children represent a distant, untouched joy that Feyre and the inner circle are removed from but trying to protect. It's such a juxtaposition from the war and the letters from the High Lords on the table in front of them.
I love that. And to continue on with these kids, quote, Cassian waited, apparently using the momentary delay to stretch out his wings to the delight of 6 children now gawking at him. Amren hissed from the other room, focus. We know at this moment Nesta's trying to keep an eye on Elain. And that focus moment, initially, I took it as her trying to look at Elain. But the fact that it comes straight from sexy Cassian with his sexy wings playing with children, to me, that's Nesta checking him out.
Yeah, I'm sure she's totally distracted of like, oh, what's happening? Cassian, wings, what?
Children? He has the potential of being a good father? Okay.
All of a sudden, Elain is startled by Lucien when he tugs on their bond. She describes it as a thread tied to a rib. Before I move on, this instantly made me think of Adam and Eve. Eve was made from Adam's side. And the reason Eve was made from Adam's side is so that she could be a helpmeet for him. A helpmeet means an equal, like mates. Helpmeet does not mean a support or someone inferior. It means equal. And mates are supposed to be equal.
It also gives me the vibes of the like Greek mythology of like soulmates are connected by an invisible string.
Yep. I had the same vision too.
Wow, good.
It makes me mad.
Proving points left and right.
But I can't deny the connection, which is biblical.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of biblical references in this section.
Oh, completely. Oh my God, a lot.
Something about this encounter between Elain and Lucien provokes a vision from Elain, in which she warns of the ravens that are about to arrive. Now, for me, this begs the question, do visions just come and go from Elain, or is she more likely to see them when she wants to retreat from the real world?
Good question. It's hard because we know so little about Elaine's powers. Is she capable of controlling it? How often do they come? And in these early days of her power, how much can she choose to retreat into her visions? Well, I'm going to say yes. I think she can retreat and sometimes chooses to. But in this moment, I'm going to say it's not because Lucien touches the bond. It's after Nesta gets involved. And she has a very toxic relationship with Nesta, if we remember. So yeah, it makes sense for her to retreat.
Oh my God, you're so right. Now that I'm thinking about this, Elain, to the best of our knowledge, never has a vision during Silver Flames because Nesta's never around Elain.
I want to throw up with excitement. Oh my God.
And Elain was a hot mess when Feyre first arrived because it was only Nesta ever around her.
Nesta is, always around her. She always has visions around Nesta. Wow.
Wow, I got goosebumps.
Oh my God. If we're right, how long did it take Elain to pick that up?
Oh, it probably took Nesta going off the deep end for Elain to be like, oh wow, my life is so much better without her in it.
Elain thrived when Nesta left.
Yeah.
She made friends with the shadows. She bakes. She does all these things. She is there for Feyre with the baby and everything. So, yeah. I mean, as much as Nesta loves her, love hurts.
Yeah, love can still be toxic.
So toxic. And, we think about toxic relationships. We think about romantic partners. No.
Oh, yeah, it can definitely be your family.
And friends. Some of my most toxic relationships has been with friends and family. Oh. God, good freaking point, Amy.
Yeah, I didn't plan on hurting today, but I hurt.
Yeah, this isn't great.
We're only halfway through.
Oh my God.
Nesta offers to get something for Elain to help calm Elain down. And Feyre observes, quote, only with Elain did she use that voice. This is going to come up again for Feyre later in this section. And I think this means Feyre's jealous, which begs another question. Does Feyre dote on Elain to win Nesta's affection?
Before I answer that, now I'm thinking about this whole toxic relationship and Elain. How shitty does Elain feel when she sees that Nesta doesn't treat both of their baby sister well?
Yeah, it's true that Nesta favors Elain over Feyre.
Yeah.
Elain probably feels like shit.
I mean, we really don't remember, but Elain is Feyre's older sister.
Right.
She probably doted on Feyre when she was little.
Right.
Because Elain would. And she probably feels like shit of oh my God, you treat her so poorly.
And it's how much of it is my fault.
Yeah. And you're just loving me the whole time.
Yeah. It's real shit.
Yeah. I mean, so to answer your question, I think Feyre is jealous. And even if she wasn't, at the very least, she would be hurt because who wouldn't be?
Mm-hmm.
In their house, back in the hovel, there was no love, no affection. Feyre will reflect on that in the next chapter. But everyone doted on Elain. I think Elain, for whatever reason, is the only one in the family that everyone felt comfortable expressing emotions and love towards. Even their father expressed more love towards Elain than either of his daughters. And I'm about to give you the shittiest comparison, and I don't feel good comparing Elain to this. But also, tell me I'm not wrong.
Okay.
No, don't tell me that. Unless I am wrong.
Okay.
It's almost like Elain is the family dog, and everyone is able to show that dog love, but they're not able to show that to each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you want to know why that is? I mean, yeah, it's shitty. But it's because Elain is the only people pleaser in that family.
Just like Doc would be. I just imagine her as a golden retriever.
Yeah, she's just I just want you to love me.
I mean, I don't even know if she wants everyone to love her. She just wants everyone to be happy.
Yeah, that's true. I think she wants to be a peacemaker without knowing how to be.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the alternative is to please everybody. Because maybe if everybody is pleased, they won't fight with each other and they won't hate on each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. She got to break that.
And she does but like she starts to break it and we don't see it. Just like how Wings and Ruin is Nesta's story just as much as it's Feyre's story. Silver Flames has a whole lot of Elain development that we don't see.
To me, it reminds me of Mist and Fury, where we're so focused on Feyre's development that we ignore how much Rhys develops as well off screen. The same thing happens in Silver Flames for Elain.
Yep.
That she has a lot of development off screen while we're focused on Nesta.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to make another point that makes me mad. So there's a lot of irony in response to Nesta's offer to get Elain something. Elain says she wants sunshine. Nesta interprets this as wanting to go outside. But it guts me to say that if Lucian's name means light, that maybe Elain in fact means, without realizing it, she wants her mate. Especially when I've been spending all this time pointing out that mates and sunshine are tied together.
I completely missed that. I'm so happy that you saw it and I'm so sorry. Sorry, not sorry, but I love this.
Yeah, it's like, it hurts me, but I have to say it because I see it.
Yeah.
And to deny saying it is to hold back for our listeners. And I have to call it as I see it.
There's just so much here that I feel like SJM is not just saying, hey, they're mates. I feel like she's proven that. I know that there's a lot of theories of Elain actually being Tamlin's mate. I don't think you can fake that bond, that whole tugging thing. I feel like all these clues are now, hey, they're going to end up together.
Yeah, it might take a long ass time.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to eat that shit up.
Yeah.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just eat it up.
I just want SJM to make me fall in love with them as a pair because I don't love them as a pair. But I can't deny their pairing.
I think that's fair. I don't think I'm going to, I was about to say, why don't you love them as a pair? I have no skin in the game of them being a pair or not. We don't love them as a pair because we don't see them as a pair.
Right.
She's too busy shoving Azriel and Elain as a pair for us to see it. So we don't even have the opportunity to know what that would even look like.
Yeah.
So therefore, Elain doesn't even have that opportunity to know what that would look like. But I bet it'd be beautiful.
Yeah. They probably also have beautiful babies.
Oh my God. The babies they would have.
Assuming Elain wants babies, she might not want babies.
She might not want babies. But if she did,
they would be beautiful.
Spoiler for Silver Flames. Do we know if Nesta changed Elaine's body structure to be able to have Illyrian babies?
We don't.
Because we know she changed Feyre's.
Right.
And she changed herself, which is such a sneaky move where it's oh, interesting. So you do want kids.
Right, right.
But did she not for Elain?
Yeah, which is shitty.
Unless it's also buildup of Azriel's not it.
Still, but what if Elain wanted Azriel to be it? I don't know. Well,
at that point, Azriel had ditched Elain.
I don't remember.
It's after Christmas. Or not Christmas, their winter holiday.
I thought it was before.
So the baby scene is at the very end. When they have their whole, present sharing thing, that's before the baby scene.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, and the secret chapter happens right after that.
Oh. I don't remember. It's been so long.
I also could be entirely wrong, and people are going to yelling at us right now.
They're going to send messages to be like, you're wrong.
Just shut up. Just stop talking, Jac.
2 days after all this has happened, Feyre is back at flying practice with Azriel. Like she did with Cassian, Feyre embarrasses herself by flying into a tree. When Azriel laughs, Feyre, quote, scowled, brushing off the shards of bark in my bruised pride. I hope it's not lost on us all that every time Feyre fucks up flying, her pride is hurt in the process. She's ashamed she's not good at it, just like I imagine she's ashamed when she takes a misstep as High Lady. It doesn't help that Feyre cannot fly. She's also unable to find anything in the library to help her family, nothing to help her master the Ouroboros, and she has not been particularly helpful with the communication with the High Lords. Instead, Lucian is the helpful one. Quote, Lucian had indeed given us an initial location for the meeting, and several more when those were struck down. But that was to be expected, Lucian had said, as if he'd arranged such things countless times. Rhys had only nodded in agreement and approval.
This must be such a hard spot to be in, especially after feeling like she was kicking ass at the spring court. It's moments like this when I can see Feyre questioning herself and see if she's even bringing any value to the team. But Feyre doesn't question herself at this moment because no one is making progress. Not in research, not in anything else. So they all suck. With her, she's still valuable.
Maybe she deludes herself. I don't know. I can't tell you.
Right, but this is like a perfect moment for her to be like, I knew I wasn't a good fit for everyone.
Yeah, and
like,
she doesn't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. On the topic of the Ouroboros, Feyre points out that no one had walked away from the mirror except the weaver in the wood. And in my opinion, that's one reason Feyre continues to discard the idea of pursuing the mirror. Because to do so and to succeed would make her equivalent to the weaver. And that feels significant to me when you think about, at the end of the novel, the weaver is the one Rhys recruits for the war. Like, Feyre's got this connection to the weaver. Rhys calls on the weaver. Her ring was at the weaver. Like, Feyre is the weaver.
The way when you said he recruits her, I just imagine the weaver, bone carver, and Bryaxis all showing up in like team jerseys.
That would be cute.
Like, I don't know what their team would be, like, Team Death Gods. Woo!
Yeah.
Here to death it up.
For some reason, Feyre is surprised that Azriel can crack jokes and speak around her. But in my opinion, this shouldn't be a surprise. They are the two outsiders in the inner circle. It's obvious from the way Daddy Azzy's acting that he feels a kinship with Feyre, especially when he reminds her she can't break from her flying mistakes. Quote, "That's what I told myself," he says to her. Feyre, though, is resistant. Quote, for it was that initial leap of utter faith, that initial lurch into motion that had my limbs locking up. What this is telling me is that Feyre still doesn't trust herself or her Fey body. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this is all happening in the same 2 pages Feyre thinks about the Ouroboros. Feyre doesn't trust herself to not fail right now because she hasn't accepted that she isn't doing that great a job at her role as High Lady or sister or anything at all.
Let's also keep in mind here that Feyre doesn't fail. And I guarantee that Feyre probably doesn't see it that way, but let's review her credentials. Her family was starving, and she learned how to hunt to take care of them. She went under the mountain and saved everyone. She learned how to read. She got out of an abusive relationship and found her mate. She got everyone out of Hybern. She got her and Lucien out of the spring court and into safety. Feyre manages to pull through one way or another. So, of course, when it comes to something like learning, which is something that Feyre's always been, I don't know, like bear through it, like just power through it with like
so
sheer
stubborn.
will. Yeah, like learning how to swim, learning how to read, learning how to hunt. It was like sheer will that she got herself through all those things. So when it comes to something like flying, to me, that's in par with hunting, swimming, reading.
Right.
And, you know, everything says that she should have mastered this by now. So, of course, she'd be, like, a bit hard on herself.
Yeah, because she's used to succeeding.
Even though she'll never tell herself that.
No.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, you know, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Move your career further, faster in just 2 days with a Harvard Professional and Executive Development Program. Advance your leadership skills, craft smarter business strategies, build your network, and transform how you work and think to keep your career moving forward. You'll earn a certificate and can add Harvard to your resume with Harvard Professional and Executive Development. Learn more at professional.dce.harvard.edu/Spotify.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Defeated by another fall, Feyre lets her wings drag on the ground, not caring that she's showing this weakness to Azriel. When Azriel admits that Feyre will likely not fly in the legions of Illyrians during the war, he continues to encourage her to practice flying, quote, until the last possible moment. You never know when any measure of training may be useful. This is a nice little breadcrumb when you think about the fact that it's Azriel and Feyre that will later go to rescue Elain and rely on Feyre's ability to fly. And actually, he's, of course, the one who would be most terrified in that moment because he's seen her fail the most.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Like that moment of, oh shit,
yeah,
she needs to fly. We're not going to make it.
Yeah.
She doesn't know how.
Yeah. Like, and I can't wait to talk about the way his face is described in that moment because it is pure terror.
Yeah. And then the Tamlin of it all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's
going to be a good scene to talk about.
Oh, this is all getting so good.
Azriel then tells Feyre the story of Nephel, the seraphim who was too small to fly with Draken in Miriam's army, but was the cartographer who saved Miriam when she was fatally wounded. First off, the story of the human slaves escaping through a parted sea is very Old Testament Moses and the Red Sea, which is significant in both Jewish and Christian religions. Mm-hmm. The story is a heartwarming one of the underdog, the one, quote, who had been passed over, who had been forgotten, who gets to be the hero of the day. Obviously, both Azriel and Feyre connect with the story because of their own otherness. I think Feyre is motivated to keep training not just because she connects with the story of Nephel as a Fae outsider, but I think the story more reminds her of her own journey under the mountain and how she was able to overcome the odds despite being human. Because, as Azriel says, quote, the most unlikely person can alter the course of history.
Also, shout out to Nephel being part of the queer community.
Oh, yeah, love it.
Love it. Want more. I want more. Yeah. I want more main character mated queer relationships, but
agreed.
I'll take anything. Fun fact. Nephel, when spelled with one less L than what SJM uses, is a Greek cloud nymph and saves her 2 kids by sending a flying golden ram. Nephel doesn't use a golden ram with SJM, but of course SJM would use the name of someone who saved others through flying.
Yeah.
Feyre returns home to Rhys and her bathtub. She's in so much pain she cannot even lift a leg to get into the tub. Instead, Rhys picks up Feyre and puts her into the tub. Again, we've talked about bathing and bathtubs as being almost baptismal, cleansing of sins. So if you keep all of that in mind, Feyre is still yet to fully cleanse her sins, faults, and issues, whatever you want to call it, in this book. And every time we see her bathe, moments of cleansing, there's something that makes it less so. Something where it's not quite cleansing. So in this moment, Rhys is the one to physically put her in the tub. He is the one trying to cleanse her. And Feyre falls asleep in the water until it gets cold. So I'm interpreting this as like, your sins are still not forgiven here.
Yeah, she's not putting in the effort.
Yeah.
I mean, she physically can't at the moment, but there's no ownership in the action.
Mm-hmm. And we keep seeing that over and over again. So eventually she'll take a real bath.
Does she?
I don't know. I'm hoping.
We'll see.
Because I'm trying to make a point. So otherwise she'll just never be cleansed.
Yep. After the bath, Rhys starts rubbing salve into Feyre's muscles to help with the pain. That quickly turns into sexy time because sex is healing, right? At one point, Rhys says, quote, Will it ever stop wanting you? I don't think I can stand 1,000 years of this. I think this is supposed to be sexy or hot or like make us go molten inside. However, he's basically saying he's ready to die instead of live 1,000 years with her.
I don't know. For me, I'd just be like counting down the days of 1,000 years. What happens? Only like 100 years go by and he doesn't have that same passion.
Fire.
Yeah, fire. Which like, that's what happens in relationships. You know, it's just, you evolve into a different type. And if I was Feyre, I'd just be like, shit, you have doomed us.
Yeah,
and now I'm going to be like the day that it changes. Like you said.
Right. If he's like, I can't do 1,000 years of this and they only last 100, is she all of a sudden unsexy? Does it become her fault?
Yeah. I want this like passion, this I need you to evolve into something deeper as like what happens when the baby's born with Nyx and stuff. Like, you know, they're both going to be tired, baby screaming all night long, but they want to like fit some time in. It may not be this like intense, passionate moment of like massaging. It's just kind of like, I've got 15 minutes.
Let's get it done.
Like, we need this to count.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I still think.
Oh, no, that's
he's being
fair.
a dick.
Either way, my feelings are hurt for her, regardless.
Yeah. I feel like my point of view is made worse by the fact that Feyre says, quote, I wish I had days to spend with you like this, just me and you. And Rhys responds, we will. I can't tell if he's actually being sincere, though. Or maybe SJM is just mocking what we know is the inevitability of Rhys's choices, that he will die. So it's really great irony and foreshadowing, but also aggravating as fuck.
I thought the exact same thing because it's like, oh, suddenly you're optimistic because nothing you've ever said or done
shows that optimism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I have a reason to this. I think it's because he's not looking at her. He's looking at her back. Feyre's on her tummy and he's massaging her back. And he's able to have that type of lie because he doesn't have to meet her eyes and say that.
I bet if we go back and look at every intimate moment where they've promised to not die or like we're going to stay together forever, I bet he's not looking at her every time.
Oh, I wonder.
I bet he's not looking her in the eyes.
He's probably like straddling her back, saying that with his fingers crossed.
Right. Or like he's like spooning her.
Yeah.
And she can't see him.
And his talon toes are crossed.
Way to bring it back to talon toes. The next day, at the start of chapter 30, Feyre is so sore she can't go to her training with Cassian and Azriel, which means both males show up to check in, as we've discussed. This inevitably puts the two bad boys in the path of the Archeron sisters. This is when we see the interaction between Cassian and Elain when Elain remarks, he snapped your wings, broke your bones. To which Cassian replies, it'll take more than that to kill me. We get Elain's creepy response, no, it will not, which comes before we know for sure, but suspect that she's a seer. What do we think Elain actually means here?
We get asked about this moment so much, and so many people believe that this is a sign that Cassian will die. But allow me to ease some fears. This is why I don't think that it means that he'll die violently. Snapped wings and broken bones. When you think of the scale of violence, that's pretty minor. I mean, his guts are spilled by the end of this book. That means that anything more violent than that is not how he'll die. So not like war, not like more intense an attack, because again, snapped wings, broken bones. No, it's going to be something more minor. Sure, that could mean, I don't know, poison or something, but I'm going to interpret that to believe that it's old age.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Here's my rebuttal.
No. Okay.
Not to your point, but
I was just like, I don't want him to die.
To this idea of Cassian dying.
Okay.
Everything we've seen of Elain's visions has never been future. It's always been things already in motion or already happened that the group is not aware of.
I'm so happy you point this out. I wish I had a pillow to throw at you out of joy.
So is Elain seeing the future? I don't know. But the precedent has not been set that she sees the future. She sees the ravens coming as the actions are in motion for the ravens to come.
She sees the age, the queen's old hands, and that had already happened.
Right, exactly. She sees the Firebird because the Firebird already exists.
Oh my God, you made me, I was so worried. You'd be like, let me bring a counterpoint as to how he dies. I was Like, don't hurt me.
No. You know, the other thought that I have is if she is seeing the future, she's seeing things already in motion. I also have interpreted it as she sees the moment where Nesta and Cassian are facing off with the King of Hybern at the end of this novel.
Yep.
And they should have died.
They should have died, which that might be just what she sees.
Right. That was my other interpretation.
I love it. Yeah, you've mentioned that before, that Cassian basically should have died.
Multiple times in this book.
Yeah.
And Elain's visions are only piecemeal, so she can't.
She sees withered hands. She sees a firebird. She
Right.
doesn't see the hands flipping her off or the hands like doing something of like, here's my evil plan, just
Right.
bits and pieces. So yeah, of course it would be. Oh, I feel so much better. Thank you.
You're welcome. Feyre avoids addressing Elain's creepiness in the scene by offering to take her to the garden, which Azriel steps in to do himself. We know that Azriel's starting to become a little enamored with Elain, and why do I say that? Other than his cute little bow toward her when he first sees her that morning, there's also, quote, no shadows at his ear, no darkness wringing his fingers as he extended a hand. This only happens when Azriel interacts with Mor. And so he's starting to displace his affection from Mor to Elain in my book.
And I love Daddy Azzy, but I want to put some of this in perspective. Elain is so far gone in her own mind and in her own trauma, she's a shell of a person. We know that. We know that she's too thin. She needs to get out more. I think you can absolutely consider her to be sickly. What you can definitely consider her is incapable of giving consent.
Okay.
Why is Azriel falling or starting to have a crush on someone who isn't capable of consenting? I'm trying to find a comparison to our world because, yes, Elain gets better, but we know in this moment, no one knows this. No one knows that she is okay. Azriel has a theory, but he hasn't confirmed that. This is almost like someone who has a serious brain injury and they're going to need assistance for the rest of their life. That's as far as they know. Hold on.
That's rough. Okay, keep going.
Again, as far as everyone knows, and yet he has a crush on her? And who knows what inappropriate thoughts that he's had so far? Like, why, Daddy Azzy, are you doing this? Lucian makes sense because that's his mate, and he isn't even, like, lusting after her. He's just concerned.
Right.
Why do you have a crush on someone who isn't capable of saying yes to you?
Yeah, it's not great. It's not a good look for him. I will say, I don't interpret it as maniacal as you do.
I'm not saying it's maniacal. I'm just saying he has major issues.
He does have major issues. What he has is a savior complex.
Yeah.
In my view, he wants to save someone in need of saving because no one saved him.
You pointed out his little bow, which is really sweet. And he's very gentlemanly-like.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he had no training for that, which means
Right.
he had to go and pick that up himself.
Right.
So he wants to be that knight for someone, and
Yeah.
he's tried to be that for Mor, and he's trying to do that for Elain. But again, Elain, like, you're developing the crush on someone who can't even, if they said they liked you back, you can't even say yes. Like, that's just not okay.
Yeah. I mean, we love Daddy Azzy, but
I love him. I do. I mean,
it's problematic.
yeah, it's just one of those moments where it's like, when it was just this scene in particular that really struck me, where Elain is so far gone that she needs assistance to move around after, like, one of her visions.
Yeah, it's fair.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
she needs to be escorted to the garden. She needs someone to keep an eye on her at all times.
She's in an assisted living situation.
She is, and that's who you're gonna have a crush on? Azriel?
Yeah, it's not
It's
great.
just, yeah, I just wanted to add that little
Thanks.
cringe. Yeah, I want that C to be in everyone's mind.
I hate it.
Uh-huh. Now to move on to a happier couple. I love how Cassian reaches over Nesta to get food, aka to get some power, and then proceeds to lick his fingers, aka sex, aka power. I just love this moment.
Which is amusing when you think about how Feyre continues to be a bad sister and leaves Nesta and Cassian alone when Cassian's obviously trying to either grate on Nesta's nerves or make moves on her. Feyre calls it sisterly payback, and though that might be true, I honestly think she's just playing matchmaker right now.
Right? Like the one time Feyre's being a good sister or a wing woman, she's considering herself bad.
Yeah,
it's like you're helping her out. You're doing her a favor. Spoiler for, I don't know, I can't help you guys anymore. We know that in Silver Flames, Nesta's gone off the deep end.
Right.
We know that's because her dad dying.
Yeah.
A lot of other issues like that, like she hates herself with how she is with Feyre and stuff. But her and Cassian are in a really good place towards the end of this book.
Yeah.
That, you know, people I think are a little jarred when it comes to
Silver
Flames and Frost and Starlight, where it's just like, what the hell happened? And, you know, Nesta explains it. But I wonder what would have happened if their dad never got involved or never died for them the way he did.
Yeah.
Just fun thoughts.
Yeah.
Farrah's helping out here quite a bit. They would have been together at the end of this.
They could have.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
John Mayer. Ruining everything.
I know. Give me back my girlhood. It was mine first.
Before I continue into my notes, I forgot to mention that Feyre goes to the House of Wind and asks Cassian to take Nesta for her, and Feyre tries to glide into the House of Wind again and fails again. Just had to point that out.
Yes, but she does do a little bit better, which I will point out momentarily.
Okay.
And as to why I think that it means that.
Okay. Once Feyre and Nesta arrive at the House of Wind, they venture into the library under the house. When Feyre asks Nesta how Nesta will know what she's looking for, Nesta hedges. Feyre projects, quote, and perhaps that frightened her that she would just know, intrigued her, but frightened her. And she hadn't told Cassian not out of spite, but because she didn't wish to reveal that vulnerability, that lack of control. I think this is one of those times that Feyre happens to be right. For better or for worse, Feyre doesn't push Nesta on this, and I think Nesta maybe appreciates that. Because when Feyre says she'll go down a few levels to look at the books, and that Nesta doesn't have to go, Nesta volunteers to join her.
Feyre reflects on her life and her actions. Quote, I didn't know how to broach that subject, how to ask if she was all right, if I could help her. I had never been affectionate with her, never held her, kissed her cheek. I didn't know where to begin. There's a reason why, just the page before, Feyre's landing after flying, and she notes this, is a little bit better. Feyre is reflecting on her own actions or lack thereof. She's thinking of all the ways that she wasn't there for Nesta. Obviously, Nesta should have been there for her too, and we'll get into that in a moment, but little progress on her flying, little progress in her development.
Yep, because SJM is so great at physical and emotional development going hand in hand, but in different directions.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know about Nesta from Silver Flames, I wonder what's going on through Nesta's head as Feyre, quote, explained to her who the priestesses were, why they were here. Feyre notes that Nesta grows quieter as they descend. Could it be possible Nesta's thinking about her own experience? Or maybe is it possible Nesta could be rethinking her vision of Rhys? As they explore the stacks, Nesta brings up the topic of Feyre's former illiteracy.
Also, Nesta is the one who brought it up.
Yeah,
she's approaching this emotional subject.
It's true. It's true.
And her own failings as a sister. I just want to point, like, I'm trying to give Nesta some major credit there.
Yeah, and she deserves it because as we see, as the sisters go further down into the library, the deeper they go, the more they're willing to be vulnerable with each other or the topics they're willing to discuss. And it's totally intentional.
Yeah, because just like they're getting farther into the library, they're getting closer to the beast within. Just like their own beast within.
So many goosebumps this episode.
I know. SJM. Oh my God. I hope she listens to this episode.
And this one only.
Only this one.
Feyre admits to Nesta that she doubted Nesta would help her learn to read, which causes Nesta to, quote, stiffen like I'd hit her. I think Nesta's jealous that Feyre trusted Rhysand enough to learn how to read from him and never asked Nesta herself.
Silver Flame spoiler. We know from Silver Flames that Nesta struggles with Feyre because Feyre is a reminder of all the ways Nesta failed as an older sister. I saw this on TikTok, and this TikToker made a really good point. Let's keep in mind again the things we know from Silver Flames. We know that Nesta was willing and ready to sell her body to help her family, Feyre included. Virgin, modest Nesta, who was told time and time again by her mother that she was meant for a prince, was willing to go into sex work for her family. Nesta knows how much she loves her family and what she's willing to do. So moments like this, when Feyre didn't trust her, it must hurt Nesta even extra. And how is Nesta supposed to say, hey, I was willing to give my body for you. How do you think I wouldn't give you my mind?
Yeah. I could see Feyre being like, but you didn't give your body for me. I did all the work.
Yeah, but Feyre didn't know.
No, I know that. I know that. But if Nesta says, well, I was willing to give up my body for you.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just shitty.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a shitty situation.
It's such a shitty situation. I think in one of those instances, it really is the thought that counts. You know, I'm sure that also must have mentally messed with Nesta too, of like getting herself mentally ready of like, this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to have to do. And then by the sheer grace of the cauldron, Feyre is able to start bringing in food and Nesta doesn't have to do that. And to feel grateful to Feyre for that, that she was saved by her little sister to not have to start going into sex work, something that she doesn't want to do. That must mess with her too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about my younger sisters. Yeah, that would suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hurts.
Like Nesta said, she didn't know. And that's not like, I don't want to say that's an excuse, but it's Nesta's truth. She didn't know.
Feyre asks Nesta at one point why she pushes everyone but Elain away. Nesta almost answers, quote, some emotion guttered in her eyes. Her throat bobbed. Nesta shut her eyes for a moment, breathing sharply. And I am so mad that the Ravens interrupt this moment because Nesta was going to be honest and vulnerable. Instead, Hybern not only destroys this moment, Nesta's experience with Hybern in this novel will make her cut herself off from Feyre and her loved ones completely by silver flames. And that makes me even more mad.
Had the Ravens just waited 2 minutes.
We could have had a healing moment.
We could have had a healing moment, but then we wouldn't have silver flames. But damn it. If I was Feyre, it would be physically impossible for me not to go to Nesta that night, sneak into her room, be like, hey, sis, about that conversation, I really would like to circle back to that. Were you about to tell me you love me or something? Like, I don't want to fill in the blanks or anything, but like, do you love me?
And Nesta be like, fuck off.
I know. Be like, can we recreate? Hey, Nesta, can you come back down to the library? I know we had a really traumatic memory here, but if this is what it takes to get you to open up.
I'll take you to dark places.
Yeah. Want to go to the prison?
Oh my God.
Maybe the bone carver can act as our therapist. Actually.
He would be a great therapist.
For the two of them?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Feyre and Nesta are in an ominous situation. But when Nesta asks Feyre, what's that? Feyre doesn't give any information and just instructs her sister to run. Now, for sure, time would have been wasted by explaining what's happening, and maybe Feyre doesn't even know what's happening. But Feyre is taking charge right now. She is Nesta's High Lady here, instructing Nesta to not only run, but also not giving her a chance to object.
This makes me want to start practicing with you, Amy, that I'm going to yell run to you and see if you can match my energy. But now that you just told me you have to wait 6 months because of your ankle, in 6 months,
we'll practice.
I'm just going to look at you, yell run, and then just see if like...
It's like playing the floor is lava.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, match my energy.
Nesta tries to match Feyre's energy, but Feyre criticizes her sister's lack of exercise as they run, something Feyre will make sure is addressed in Silver Flames.
I take this as a personal attack from Feyre. These boobs and this knee was not made to run, okay? I could squat the Ravens away like a champ, but some of us weren't built to run, Feyre. Rude.
I think we talked about that in season 2.
Yeah, and I'm still pissed off at her. Here we are a whole ass season away, and there's no representation of this book of people who have bad knees.
Who can't run.
And, boobs, all right?
Yeah. Nesta's got boobs, too.
My size boobs?
I don't know. Probably not.
Thank you.
Even though they're in a dire situation, and Feyre is trying to help save her sister, Feyre forgets that she's High Fae and relies on her human instincts. She remembers too late that Feyre herself can winnow, but she doesn't winnow, and she can't get her and Nesta out of the library before the two of them are cornered and their magic is taken away by Faebane. At first, we don't know who the Ravens are, just that they're male High Fae. But SJM always relies on color to signify who is who in this series. And you will note that before Feyre sees the coat of arms on their clothes, she sees the bone-white thread of the embroidery in the Ravens' jackets, a color she only associates with Hybern. And we very quickly learn from there that the Ravens are here under the King of Hybern's command to take Nesta, who took too much from the cauldron that it could not be used properly again. I love this moment when Nesta asks the Ravens who they are. She doesn't actually ask a question. She simply states, "Who are you?" Period. Like the queen she is.
Nesta is described as having a white face, but her eyes do not show any fear. I mean, just the sheer badassery of this. Yes, thank you, Queen Nesta. I love it.
She's great. Chapter 31 opens with Feyre trying to determine what to do, what path to take. She lays out 3 choices. And you know which one she takes? The one that puts hers and her sister's lives in the most danger. First off, rather than risking additional trauma to the priestesses, Feyre chooses, well, then I should either fight back and definitely lose, or, you know what, let's just run to a dead end. Feyre wins Worst Sister of the Year award.
I don't know. I feel like it's a solid plan. It's running downhill. I'm able to do that as well. However, I will say where it's not smart is how they run downhill, downhill, downhill. We already know Nesta's not in shape. And then Feyre is like, hey, I need you to save us. So please run back up. Like, I'm just imagining Nesta being like, okay, thank God. I'm getting speed. I'm getting momentum. Go, get help. What? I have to go back up? You couldn't block the entrance a few levels up for me?
Yeah. No, now you know what's playing in my head as Nesta's running is Kate Bush is running up that hill.
Running up that hill. Running up. Yeah, the side cramp. I wouldn't.
It sucks.
I mean, I don't know. The first half, great plan. Run downhill. I'm on board. Also, I feel like it's a weird breadcrumb of Nesta going up the stairs.
Oh, I agree. The down, 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 around, 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 that's prevalent throughout Silver Flames. Yep. We see a little glimpse of that here as they start running down. It's great.
You think at that moment, she'd be like, wow, I really need to learn how to run uphill. More.
No.
I mean, neither would I.
Never again.
Never again.
Before Feyre and Nesta run deeper into the library, Feyre tells the Ravens, quote, "You made a grave mistake coming here to my house, and I hope it rips you into bloody ribbons." What's Feyre thinking here? Is she confident she'll run into Bryaxis? But then again, she says, I hope it rips you, which is interesting. A Silver Flame spoiler. I know Nesta's the one who brings the house to life, but does Feyre on some level know the house might have its own secrets beyond Bryaxis?
I just love the line of, like, you come to my house, and I just think of, it's like Feyre's version of, like, whose house runs house. I've also been watching a lot of Buffy, where there's been, like, cool one-liners that doesn't quite make sense. I mean, it's a funny choice because it's Feyre calling the city her house, but you'd call a city a home, not a house. And that doesn't quite make sense either. And we're just going to say it was a cool line, you know?
And move on.
Yeah, it was her superhero line. We're going to give it to her. But maybe it's like calls to like type of moment. We said before that there's a monster within connection to this library. And this is Feyre learning to trust the monster within and eventually trust herself to look into the Ouroboros.
I love that point because of something I'm going to say later, and I'll bring it back in a moment.
I love the point you just made because it makes me sound better. That's not what you meant. But,
yes, it's exactly what I meant.
Also, we both mean that to each other.
We do it all the time.
Yeah.
Throughout this scene, there's a callback to Mist and Fury for me. In Mist and Fury, we explored the different types of darkness as a big theme in the book. If we look at this scene from that lens, we see darkness shroud Feyre and Nesta. The library is darkness itself the further down they go. Quote, like dew on my skin. In any other situation, this might have been a soothing sort of dark. Why? Because Feyre's first affinity to magic was through water. But the Ravens call, quote, not so easy, is it, to find your way in the dark? To which Feyre responds by flinging her and Nesta further into the dark. A dark that frightens, made that way by the presence of the Ravens. We are confronted with another theme in this book, the lesser of two evils, which we've previously discussed. Feyre chooses to confront the horror at the bottom of the library that not even Cassian could face instead of Hybern's ravens. Quote, the lesser of two evils, or the worse of them. Maybe for the first time, Feyre has some awareness that what she views as the lesser of two evils is in fact just the opposite. Something she hasn't had a lot of awareness of so far in this novel.
Out of all the choices Feyre's made in this book so far, I feel like this instance and this choice is probably the one she's thought about the most. Even though it's such a short amount of time, it's kind of sad, like she makes it in such a quick moment, but she also like wasn't wrong with her choice.
No.
But she puts the most amount of thought into it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. She put more thought into that moment than she did at
any other time.
Yeah, it's true.
Had she just thought for literally a second longer, any other instance, it would be the same amount of thought process here.
It's true. Feyre instructs Nesta to run if Feyre goes down. Quote, "That was a choice that I did not need to debate, that did not frighten me, not for a heartbeat." We are reminded here of something that has been core to Feyre since the start of Thorns and Roses. And like you were talking about earlier, Jack, it's actually core to Nesta too. Feyre will do anything to protect her sisters. Like Rhys, she's willing to die for those she loves.
The hand squeeze that Nesta gives here is just perfection, and it makes my heart burst. Nesta squeezes Feyre's hand before she leaves, and I want to point out that Nesta resists at first. She tells Feyre no, she doesn't want to leave her, and it must have been one of the hardest things that Nesta's ever had to do, to leave her baby sister alone with these evil things and run away. Could you have done that, Amy? Because you have 2 little sisters.
Yeah, I don't think I could have. But you know what? If I think of it from Nesta's point of view, she knows if the roles were reversed, she would do the same for Feyre.
Yeah.
And I bet her mind is like, this hurts me to do, but I trust Feyre to take care of herself, and I need to go protect Elain.
I would almost remove Elain. I don't think she's thinking about Elain in the slightest about this. I think if I was Nesta, it would be like, I need to go get help.
Yeah.
If I can just get someone, they can go help her. And that's probably the moment for me, I believe. I don't think I would have been able to do it, mainly because it's running uphill.
Fair.
Yeah.
I would try for my sisters. I would try to run uphill.
I'd try. I just need realistic expectations placed upon me. I can stairmaster better than I can run uphill.
Fair. Ironically, when Nesta runs and Feyre knocks down the bookshelves before running in the opposite direction, Feyre unwittingly performs a parallel to the day before. Just like Feyre flew into the trees when she tried to fly, she runs into the walls she cannot see in front of her in the darkness. Painful.
That hurt me. Do you think it was a full face first?
Oh, I bet she broke her nose.
Which is weird that she doesn't mention it because she's willing to mention biting her lip through.
Yeah.
But it definitely, even if it wasn't like a full face first and like her hand, it's still painful.
Yeah.
As someone who ran into a wall and broke their arm, I can attest that it sucks.
Well, as someone who ran into a wall and broke their nose, I can attest it sucks.
The moral of the story is that we shouldn't be trusted with walls.
It's true. That being said, Feyre is floundering as High Lady right now, literally pawing in the dark for some direction. Again, it brings out her human fear. Quote, "The terror of it had my bones locking up." So how ironic is it that it's books that give Feyre relief here? Quote, "I fumbled, the hard spines of books meeting my palms, and I bit down my sob of relief, a lifeline in a violent sea." This is such an artful and beautiful reminder from Sarah J. Maas how far our girl has come. Not only that, reading was also a lifeline for Feyre at the start of Mist and Fury, and that's a chef's kiss from me.
Oh, chef's kiss. That's such a good point, Amy.
Thanks.
Oh my God.
I wonder, though, if it's Feyre's fear that attracts Bryaxis. Feyre thinks, quote, "Fear would get me killed, fear would," and then she stops because Bryaxis shows up. And having heard Feyre called High Lady and having sensed Feyre's fear, Bryaxis emerges with, quote, "A voice both young and old, hideous and beautiful, a balance of contradictions as Feyre herself has always been since Mist and Fury."
Well, who else has been a balance of contradictions, young and old, beautiful and ugly? The Weaver.
The Weaver, bringing Feyre and the Weaver back together.
Back together, and it feels so good. I also just love that Bryaxis does call her High Lady.
Yeah, I do too.
It's polite. Finally, someone's showing Feyre some respect around here.
Showing her the deference she deserves.
Exactly.
What happens next is Feyre remembers how Alice had once warned her to never make bargains. However, Feyre has learned just the opposite. She's learned that bargains can save her life, no matter the consequences. So, of course, she makes a bargain with Bryaxis without hesitation. And that brings me back to your point, Jack, of trusting the monster within.
The girl can't stop making bargains.
It's true. You want a bargain? You want a bargain? Everybody gets a bargain.
Hey, bargain? Deal? Bargain? And she's like over there like one of those auctioneer.
Oh, yeah.
One bargain over there. Do you do bargain over there? Just like, who wants a bargain with me?
It's true. But it's part of Feyre's process to look at that monster within.
Yes.
Maybe her desperation is part of her inner monster. She goes until the point of desperation every time.
Yeah. But I will say her bargains are meaningless at this point in the sense as a reader of things being at stake.
Yeah, it's true. Nothing feels at stake.
Yeah, because like her bargains and just like every single one of her bargains here work out.
Yep. Yep. Because everything always works out for Feyre.
It's just giving me a sense that if I somehow ended up here, I'd be bargains left and right.
Yeah. No need to fear. Bargains are here.
No need to fear. Bargains are here. At bargain less.
Or bargain more.
Bargains for less, more.
When Feyre asks Bryaxis to kill the ravens, Bryaxis responds with, quote, "Close your eyes," the thing purred in my ear. You know who else purrs? Rhys. Somehow, Bryaxis and Rhys are tied together in my mind. Let's think through this. Feyre thought of Rhys when she thought of making a bargain with Bryaxis. Bryaxis lives in Rhys's library below the House of Wind. Bryaxis knows the Carver, who's the twin of the Weaver, who watched over Rhys's mother's ring because his mother wanted him to retrieve it. They're all fucking connected in my mind, and I want to know why, and spoiler, it's because they're all probably Valg.
Yeah, it's the connection that Rhys has with the Weaver is so buddy. And how did his mom give the Weaver the ring? He has this connection with the Bone Carver. It's all Valg. It all comes together.
Yeah, and I want answers.
We're going to get them in the third Crescent City book.
I hope so.
Yeah. No, SJM said so.
She can still withhold. She can give and she can take away.
SJM giveth, SJM taketh.
Yeah, that's true. I love that for the second time in his life, Cassian has looked at Bryaxis. And though he would never hope to see her again, he does it to save Feyre.
Do you want to know my theory as to why to that he looks at Bryaxis? Because when Cassian was coming into the library and he sees a terrified Nesta, I bet that becomes the most scary thing he's ever seen.
And so Bryaxis is not as scary as that. Oh, my heart.
Right? Doesn't that make sense? Like, she throws, like, I think we end up finding out, like, she throws herself onto him. Feyre, like, ugh. Bryaxis is nothing to Nesta's fears.
Yeah. Then Rhys shows up. And I want to make a religious connection here, specifically to a story in the Old Testament. I'm going to boil it down, so I might misspeak a little bit, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Rhys goes to kill the ravens after he tells Cassian to take Feyre and Nesta away. Feyre, quote, lurched towards Rhys, but he was already gone, a plume of darkness spreading from him to shield the view of what he walked into, knowing I would look. This immediately made me think of Sodom and Gomorrah. The story goes that Sodom and Gomorrah were cities of unrighteousness and materialism, so vile that God commanded Abraham and Lot to leave before God destroyed the cities. Abraham pitched his tent away from Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot pitched his tent towards Sodom and Gomorrah, meaning that, like, Lot favored materialism while Abraham was the more obedient follower.
But, like, what if one had the morning sun coming at you and you just really didn't want to wake up like that?
God doesn't care.
But what if I'm facing...
As a sign of obedience, Abraham and Lot were commanded to take their families and to not look back at the cities, or else they would be destroyed just like the cities. So Abraham and Lot leave. But Lot's wife looked back at the cities and was turned into salt for her disobedience. Just like Lot's wife, Feyre looks back at Rhys, knowing that Bryaxis, the thing she can't look at, is over there. Feyre would have faced her own destruction were it not for Rhys's darkness to protect her.
I also do love that, Feyre looks and she doesn't die because, those old stories, bullshit that women dying left and right.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like, finally, you can look. But I do want to, like, the Sodom Gomorrah, I'm happy that you brought that up. One, absolutely. It's such a reference to that. Mm-hmm. Applaud you. But we've been getting a lot of theories as to where Amren is from. Mm-hmm, and there's that one theory that Amren is an angel, specifically, who was attacking Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, this link here, which is the biblical reference that you see a lot in literature.
Yes.
That the whole, like, don't look back or you're cursed.
Yep.
With that in mind, with Amren and being an angel, I'm just saying I can see it. I can see it all coming together.
Which makes it fascinating that Amren is the one Feyre brings to talk to Bryaxis to fulfill her bargain.
Oh, yeah. Because, yeah.
We'll have to think about that when we get to that episode.
My brain just went poop. Good news. Breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs.
In chapter 28, Feyre, in response to both her and Cassian's need to train to relieve stress, says, quote, I suppose there are worse methods of coping. Cassian responds, indeed there are. This hurts when you know, in Silver Flames, that Nesta resorts to sex and alcohol.
Yeah.
Which, like, one day, when we do cover Silver Flames, I am so excited to cover that because, like, why are we shaming a woman for using sex as a coping mechanism?
Because men get to do it all the time.
And she's only saved when she gets committed to one man. But, like, whatever.
Yeah, the feminism's going to come out real hard.
Real hard when we cover that one. All right? If she wants to hook up with whoever she wants to, then go forth.
Another Silver Flames spoiler alert. This one might not be an intentional breadcrumb, but it's funny. Nesta is outraged that Maja can't do anything, that she's useless helping Elain. This is not unlike Maja not being able to deliver a baby via C-section in Silver Flames. She can put guts back in, heal wings, but she can't perform a C-section.
Nesta was onto something. Get a second opinion.
That's right.
Chapter 29. Lucien ran both hands through his long red hair. His skin was darker, a deep golden brown, compared to the paleness of Eris's coloring. Maybe this is the first real and obvious hint that Lucien's father is not barren.
Especially when we're going to meet Helion soon.
So soon.
In chapter 30, quote, especially since Lucien had left before breakfast for a library across the city to look up anything in regard to fixing the wall, a task I'd been more than willing to hand over. He seemed eager. More than eager. He seemed to be itching to head into the city on his own. This is because this is the moment he goes to investigate Hybern's previous attack on the wall to send samples of Febane to his Dawn or Day Court friend who's going to create the antidote for Febane.
I totally missed that. That's such a good point. Yes. When Cassian and Azriel arrive at the townhouse, Nesta and Elain are eating breakfast. Quote, Nesta in a pale gray gown that brought out the steel in her eyes. Steel like the sword she's going to forge in Silver Flames?
Maybe. When the Ravens are about to make their appearance, it reads, quote, some piece of the world shifted like some off-kilter chord had been plucked. Maybe like the harp Nesta will retrieve in Silver Flames.
Yep.
Bum, bum, bum. Let's go back to the question we posed earlier in this episode. How has the tearing down of Feyre's pride impacted her relationships with her sisters?
In these chapters that we've reviewed, you think you said it earlier, her pride gets hit over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Not that she can't do anything right, but she also can't do anything wrong, but more of like Feyre's not succeeding the way that she wants to. It makes sense to me then why Feyre is now opening up to Nesta more in a way that we have never seen her. Right? Like, even though Nesta's the first one to kind of start that conversation, but before she even has that conversation, Feyre's thinking, oh my God, I never even kissed my own sister, which, like, you and I were talking about, I think last night, of like, you were imagining having never hugged or kissed your sister.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt, that concept. And there's a stripping down, like when your pride is being stripped down, even though it's against her will, it's going to strip down some of your barriers. And I think Nesta is almost picking that up. Mm-hmm. Which is why she brings in this whole, I didn't know that you couldn't read.
I completely agree with you. The stripping down of Feyre's pride, even though she's maybe not willing to face everything that she's done wrong,
mm-hmm.
The stripping of pride is forcing her to look at herself in certain areas that maybe are easier to look at, and that's her past with her sisters.
Yeah.
Of how she may have contributed to the ugliness between them, and it makes her reevaluate. And maybe failure contributes to this. Maybe the failure is, oh, maybe I'm not invincible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can't protect them. And I think that makes her afraid for the future and afraid for her sisters.
Yeah.
And forces her to address something she's kind of left alone for a long time.
It's forced humility. And again, like, I really do believe Nesta's kind of picking up on that energy too.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for both of them, their pride has been worn down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Especially in that moment when Maja is at the townhouse and, Nesta is just kind of being rude. Like, Nesta was being very rude and
mm-hmm.
abrasive. And then Feyre was just like, be quiet. And that didn't cause any strife between the two of them.
Right.
Which I found to be super interesting because Feyre wasn't trying to be nasty to Nesta the same way that she has been in the past.
Right. She's not telling her to be quiet because she's stupid. they're both trying to help Elain.
Yeah.
And that's the one place where they can see eye to eye.
Yeah. And I mean, they're able to see eye to eye. And it's like she didn't do that to annoy Nesta.
Right.
Versus a lot of her other actions has been like, haha, I'm going to smile in a way that I know is going to piss her off. It was a moment of like, oh my God, stop talking. Yeah. Everyone stop talking. Yeah. We're going to figure this out. And the fact that that went down and Nesta still wants to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Pride is, let's strip some of that down.
What I love about Wings and Ruin, there is one scene, we're not close to it yet, but there are some really beautiful moments between these sisters.
Yeah.
That really gets destroyed because of Silver Flames.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad because they come so far only for it to all be taken away.
Because of their dad.
Fucking Papa Archeron.
Papa Archeron ruined so much for them.
I can't wait to talk about him.
I'm so mad at him. I am Nesta. I don't forgive him.
Yeah, I don't either.
Cause you just go with Vasa and Jury. Okay, we can't get into that.
Yeah,
I'm so mad. People are all excited about us covering the High Lords meeting. I'm over here be like, just wait till we talk about Papa Archeron.
Oh yeah, we're gonna go hard. And now, our featured Apple Podcast review.
This is from Tessa Reeds, titled The Best Book Podcast I Ever Heard. I've tried listening to other podcasts and none of them break down the books like this one. It irks me when people on Book Talk trash ACOTAR for repetition, when it's really intentional, breadcrumbs and foreshadowing. So thank you for this podcast really going in depth. And I love the way you interpret and ponder with different viewpoints of gender roles and power dynamics. The whole podcast is chef's kiss.
Mwah. Mwah. That was a chef's kiss review.
This was me kissing your cheek.
Mwah, mwah.
Only if you've consented. But thank you for such a lovely review. When we first put out season 1, that was always one of the things that we heard a lot was people just saying, oh, you're right. This wasn't repetition. This was intentional. And I think that was something you and I did figure it out too. Like, oh, shit, this was way better thought out.
Yeah, analyzing ACOTAR in season 1 really opened my eyes to how amazing of an author SJM is.
She really is. I want to chef's kiss her cheek.
I do too. I want to chef's kiss everybody's cheek.
I know. Everyone, like for our meet and greet, it's just us kissing everyone's cheek. COVID what?
If you want a cheek kiss, leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts. We'll be sure to kiss your cheek and read your review on the podcast.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we will be exploring chapters 32 through 34 of A Court of Wings and Ruin.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our forum at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a weekly mini episode.
If you are enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok or Instagram at the handle booktalkforbooktalk. Bye!
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. and they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes per detail.